You don't lend $1,400 to a stranger. Don't. Nobody does. So when Xia Charles, Cardi B's longtime braider, the same woman who just helped get Stefon Diggs walked out of a courtroom not guilty, went public chasing Mila Adams down for $1,400. Something cracked. Because that number isn't about the money. That number is a friendship receipt she's holding up to the camera while pretending it isn't one. And Mila's response was 4 words long. I'm not giving you nothing. Hold on a second before we get into the texts, the timeline, the agent's letter, the part where one of these women keeps trying to move every single conversation off iMessage and onto a phone call. Do me a favor. Hit that subscribe, tap the bell, throw a like on this if you've been following the saga, because this one's got layers and I want y'all riding with me to the end. Cool. Let's go. Quick anchor so nobody's lost. Stefon Diggs, former Patriots receiver, was charged with felony strangulation and misdemeanor assault tied to a December 2, 2025 incident at his Dedham, Massachusetts home, where his then personal chef Mila Adams said he smacked her and tried to choke her. The trial wrapped in early May 2026. Jury came back not guilty on both counts after 2 days. Xia Charles. Yeah, Cardi's braider, the one Mila kept calling shy in her posts, testified for the defense. She told the jury she FaceTimed Adams shortly after the alleged incident, then spent time with her in New York days later, and saw no bruises, no marks, nothing. Now the verdict's in the books. And Mila, the chef, is back online with screenshots. That's the part one want to sit with, because the timing of when you drop your receipts tells you everything about why you're dropping them. Pulling the cleanest direct lines from this mess, so we're working off what was actually said, not vibes. From Adams' Instagram post that lit the fuse last week, addressed to Charles. Don't let that fake, I'm an innocent immigrant talk fool y'all. You're also a liar that knows that man cheats on and treats your friend Cardi B so bad. Wild. From the same post, escalating. You begged me to take the money so you didn't have to go to court. That's the $100,000 allegation. Adams claims Diggs offered her 6 figures to recant, allegedly funneled through his agent and routed via Charles. The same claim she made under oath. Charles's reply, lifted straight from the screenshots Adams herself published. Hi Mila. I was at work and now seeing your message. If you want to have a conversation, we can. What you said doesn't warrant a rebuttal. That's your feelings about the situation, and that's your perspective. Read that twice. Somebody accuses you of witness tampering on behalf of an NFL player, and your answer is, that's your perspective. Not, you're lying. Not, I never did that. Perspective. B. Then Cardi B, on her own live, defending the braider. Shy would never do nothing like that. She know my mama. She take care of my kids. Real talk. That's the most loaded character defense possible, because the betrayal playbook is exactly people who know your mama and take care of your kids. Cardi's not wrong that she'd know Xia better than the internet does. She's just maybe answering the wrong question. And from Charles herself, days before going live with the $1,400 demand. Where's my money, chef? Says I won't pay. Posted publicly. Receipts attached. One quote, no reaction. Just let it breathe. Here's the order that matters. Because Adams' enemies keep insisting the screenshots are old. December 2, 2025. The alleged incident in Dedham. Adams calls 911. Diggs is charged. Late December into January. Adams travels to New York to stay near Charles. She testified at trial that Charles offered to bring her up because she couldn't afford to go anywhere else. The braider on the stand confirmed the visit. That's not a disputed fact. That's both women, under oath and on Instagram, agreeing on the same logistics. Actually, hold on. Back up. The part everyone's glossing over is why Charles, who's now insisting they were never really friends, paid to fly a chef she barely knew up to New York and let her sleep at her place during the worst week of that chef's life. The never friends thing is the part of Xia's story that doesn't survive contact with her own behavior. Moving on. November 6, 2025. Paternity test confirms Diggs fathered Aileen Lopera's daughter. That story was already public. Same window, the chef accusation, the Cardi pregnancy. 4 separate paternity stories swirling around the same man. So when Adams went on the stand and described being inside that household, she wasn't testifying into a vacuum. She was the 5th or 6th story. Spring 2026. Adams shows alleged texts where Charles is encouraging her to talk to Diggs directly, despite an active no-contact order. He's like, don't do that, what about your business? Charles responds in the screenshots Adams published. I'm calling you 1 second. Phone call. Not text. Always the phone call. May 4 to 5, 2026. Diggs found not guilty. 2 days jury back fast. May 9, 2026. Stefon and Cardi at the Diggs Deep Foundation Mother's Day event in D.C. Holding hands, kissing on camera. 4 days after acquittal. Bar doesn't run that tight by accident. Mid-May. Charles posts publicly demanding her $1,400 back. Adams responds with the rant. Cardi defends the braider. The braider then explains she helped film most of Adams' cooking videos. Which that's not a stranger. That's a roommate-tier relationship being retconned into a vendor relationship after the verdict. You feel where this is going. The agent's letter. Adams' exact claim is that Diggs' offer didn't come from Diggs. It came packaged through his agent with a letter, allegedly delivered via Charles. That's a specific architecture, and it's the architecture that protects a defendant. If the offer travels through 3 hands, the person at the top can sit in court and say, "I never said that, that's hearsay, strike it from the record." And in fact, at trial, the $100,000 allegation became one of those moments where it lived in Adams' testimony but never quite landed as documented evidence the jury could weigh. That's not me speculating about strategy. That's just how hearsay rules work in Massachusetts. I had to read that part 3 times to make sure I wasn't drawing a line that wasn't there. The line's there. The video call pattern. Across the texts Adams published, every time the conversation reaches a sensitive point, the offer, the letter, the assault night itself, Charles pivots to a phone call or FaceTime. "I'm calling you 1 second. If you want to have a conversation, we can." That's not paranoid behavior from a friend. That's the behavior of a person who knows the text thread is going to be read by a third party. Maybe a lawyer. Maybe a jury. Maybe a podcast in May. I'm not saying she planned that from day one. I'm saying, by the time those particular texts were sent, somebody was already curating what would survive in writing. The salon kiss. When the cheating rumor first hit, Cardi posted a video of Charles getting her hair done, and made sure to film the moment Charles's fiancée walked in and kissed her on the lips. On its face, sweet. Defending your friend. But it's also the loudest possible non-denial denial. Nobody made a video proving the fiancé wasn't suspicious. He wasn't on trial. What that video accomplished was framing, replacing the question, did she sleep with him? With the image, look how in love she is. Different question. Different answer. Same screen. Smart media. Maybe a little too smart. Watch the split because the framing is the story. ESPN ran it cold and forensic. Headline focused on financial questions about the chef, leaning hard into the defense's narrative that Adams was after money. That's a sports desk play, protecting the league relationship. People, meanwhile, ran a reconciliation glow-up 4 days after the verdict. Stefon wants to make it work. Source-driven. Soft lighting. The exact opposite emotional temperature. That's a celebrity desk play, and it's also, pretty obviously, a placement. Anything that lands in people that fast, that polished, that conveniently 4 days post-acquittal, came through a publicist's door. Page 6 maintained the harder edge, running the 6 kids with multiple women context like a ledger. Same facts, different lens. Page 6 is happy to be petty. ESPN can't afford to be. People isn't allowed to be. Then there's the loudest counter-narrative. The camp that says Mila is a grifter. The jury saw through her. She got caught in lies on cross. End of story. And listen, I'll Steelman it for a beat. The cross-examination got tense. There were inconsistencies. The jury didn't take long. 12 people heard the whole thing and didn't buy enough of it beyond reasonable doubt. That's real. I'm not gonna pretend it isn't. But not guilty isn't the same as didn't happen. Not guilty means the state couldn't prove it to 12 strangers in a Dedham courthouse. It doesn't mean the $100,000 offer never crossed a phone. It doesn't mean the braider was neutral. It doesn't mean the woman who flew her up to New York after the worst night of her life was a stranger. Those are different claims. The verdict only answered one of them. The mainstream read on this whole thing is messy drama. 2 women fighting over a man's leftovers, $1,400 pettiness, internet noise. That's the read built for engagement. That's the read that lets everybody scroll. Here's what the read actually is. Strip the gossip lacquer off and it's a case study in what I'd call loyalty laundering. Loyalty laundering is when somebody in a celebrity's orbit converts personal access, friendship, sleepover tier trust, to film my cooking videos trust, into testimony-grade leverage on behalf of the bigger fish in the pond. The currency isn't money. It's proximity. The braider doesn't need a $100,000 check. She needs Cardi B to keep sitting in her chair every 6 weeks for the next 10 years. She needs Stefon Diggs to keep recommending her to his NFL friends. That's the contract. The $1,400 isn't a debt. It's a flex, a way of publicly establishing. I was the one giving, she was the one taking. The power dynamic has always run one direction. It's a story being filed in real time. And the genius of it, if you want to call it that, and I'm using genius with about 3 layers of side-eye, is that the people defending Xia Charles online aren't wrong about her. She probably is a hardworking single mother. She probably did build her business from nothing. Those things can be completely true, and also she can be the most strategically placed person in this entire courtroom. Both. Once. Cardi defending her isn't proof of anything either. And I say that as somebody who actually likes Cardi's instinct to protect her people. Cardi's loyalty to the people in her chair is real. But Cardi's loyalty to Stefon is also real. And right now those two loyalties are running on the same track, which makes any defense she offers structurally compromised. Not dishonest. Compromised. There's a difference, and y'all are old enough to hold that nuance. Meanwhile Adams is up there putting 20 on 10, no question. She's overplaying her hand, hinting at receipts she may not have, walking back the cheating allegation in the same paragraph she introduces it. What you be doing, I guess so. That's not the language of somebody with a smoking gun. That's the language of somebody who heard something secondhand and is trying to weaponize a rumor. But here's the part that lingers. She's overplaying 10, not 0. And the 10 is the part where she went to New York, where the braider paid for it, where the same braider then sat on a witness stand and said she saw no bruises. Those facts coexist. The jury was allowed to weigh one and ignore the other. We don't have to. The quiet thing nobody on the timeline is saying out loud. When the verdict came back, the only person whose career got measurably lighter was Stefon Diggs. Adams lost. Charles got dragged. Cardi's PR team is working overtime. Diggs walked out of that courtroom, kissed Cardi on Mother's Day for the cameras, and the news cycle moved on. That's not justice resolving itself. That's a clean operation. What's coming next? Watch the next 60 days. The Mila Adams chapter isn't closed. It's just been moved off criminal court and onto every other surface available. Civil suit's the obvious next move. Lower burden of proof, no jury required for some claims, and her lawyers know exactly which text to subpoena from Charles's phone now that the criminal case can't be retried. Don't be shocked when a filing shows up before summer. Xia Charles's braiding business is about to either explode or implode. No middle option. The clients who love the Cardi Association will book harder than ever. The clients who clocked the courtroom optics will quietly stop posting their before and afters. By the time fall rolls around, expect a rebrand. New salon name, new city, maybe a podcast announcement, anything that puts daylight between the booking page and the Google results. The aftershock 5 years out is the one nobody wants to think about. This case is going to become a quiet template in pro-athlete legal circles. How to route a settlement offer through enough hands that it never becomes evidence. How to position a personal services worker as a defense witness. How to time a reconciliation photo op to land inside the same news cycle as the verdict. Coaches, agents, fixers, they're watching. They're taking notes. The next NFL wife who tries to come forward is going to be navigating a playbook that just got refined in a Dedham courtroom this May. And Cardi. The hand-pulling at Mother's Day brunch that nobody got a clean explanation for is the loose thread. Just Jared caught the exchange once that hits a reunion show edit or a podcast clip in late summer. The reconciliation story unravels in a week, and we're right back here. Different chef, different braider, same architecture. The story isn't over because the jury said so. It's over when the people in it stop talking. And these people, they cannot stop talking. Y'all saw what I saw. Drop your take in the comments. Who you believing, and more importantly, who's running the cleanest operation in this whole mess? Hit the like, smash that subscribe, ring the bell, because there's a part 2 already shaping up the second somebody slides into my DMs with the next screenshot. And trust, somebody always does. Catch you on the next one.